you know, one thing that I love about Bruce's music, and I feel like you probably get this a lot, but if you take like where you are in life, right?
Yes.
So I was 25 years old, and for Born to Run spoke to me, right? And what he was going through, and early heartbreak, and um, you know, just life, like living life to the fullest, trying to get out of your hometown, like all of that. And then as he gets older and life hits you, more albums are more important to you at that time, right? So I remember when I got married, it was Tunnel of Love and getting ready for that whole thing. So it's truly long way of going back to like the rebellion was from the 90s hip hop, but like I think it tied in nicely to the lyrical genius that these artists have, right? They're able to tell that story.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Less Sing Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson. Joining me tonight, new friend, Kyle Gordon. Kyle, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jesse. So excited to be here. Just to be able to talk Bruce at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday night is, it doesn't get any better than this. So appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to just talking with another Bruce Springsteen fan. So super excited, and it's an honor.
Well, the honor is all mine. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, so 35 years old. I grew up, born and raised in Massachusetts, small town, about 45 minutes outside of Boston, Rentham, Mass.
Okay.
Grew up there, lived there, met my wife, lived in the city for a few years, then moved my way back out to the burbs. Went to college in New Hampshire, but just a New England kid, through
Okay.
and through. Family lives local.
Red Sox,
Red Sox,
Patriots.
Patriots, Bruins,
It's okay.
Celtics.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
to golf when I can. Have a amazing wife and a 2-year-old daughter. So just kind of living that new dad life. So it's been fun.
That's exciting. That's so cool. Well, I always like to start out with the beginning. So talk
Yeah.
about, you grew up in Massachusetts. What kind of music did your family listen to?
Yeah, it's funny. So obviously, grew up with my mom and dad and a younger brother. And both my parents are really into the Eagles. And like the 70s Eagles, James
Sure.
Taylor, obviously, Martha's Vineyard guy, and Massachusetts. And then obviously my dad, huge Bruce Springsteen fan. My dad is graduated high school in 77. So,
So he
right
and I
in
are the same age. Yes.
yes, Born to
Okay.
Run,
Yeah.
Darkness, Right Before Darkness, like all of that, that era. And then my uncle, who my dad's one of 8, he's the third oldest. My uncle's the second youngest, so there's a big age gap. My uncle discovered Bruce in the 80s, so like it's always that like argument: album better, Born to
Yeah.
Run, Darkness, or you Born in the USA. So it was really like I would say Eagles, James Taylor, but mostly Bruce. And then that's what I became listening to growing up, for sure.
So often you kind of rebel against your parents' music.
Yeah.
Did you go through a spell where you
Yeah.
had no interest in the Eagles and Taylor and Bruce?
I did. I did. Like, I think, and I was actually wrote this down. I was thinking like, I rebelled in high school, and my rebellion took me towards like 90s hip hop.
Sure.
Right. So, and I was thinking about the artists that I liked though. And this was like, I was getting a little bit deep on myself, but it was rappers that were great at storytelling.
Yeah.
That could really tell a story, that could take you to whatever they were dealing with, whatever they were going through, and you could almost kind of like put yourself there. And to me, no one does that better than Bruce, right? Bruce can take you to a place. You can visualize what that song is happening in your mind. And I think that's what drew me to some of those artists. And then, got out, but always, even as I was listening to that music, was always discovering new Bruce. And I think, one thing that I love about Bruce's music, and I feel like you probably get this a lot, but if you take like where you are in life, right?
Yes.
So I was 25 years old, and for Born to Run spoke to me, right? And what he was going through, and early heartbreak, and just life, like living life to the fullest, trying to get out of your hometown, like all of that. And then as he gets older and life hits you, more albums are more important to you at that time, right? So I remember when I got married, it was Tunnel of Love and getting ready for that whole thing. So it's truly long way of going back to like the rebellion was from the 90s hip hop, but like I think it tied in nicely to the lyrical genius that these artists have, right? They're able to tell that story.
I've often talked about that, and I'm not alone in that you either need to have been in a relationship for a while or had your heart broken to get Tunnel of Love, right?
Yes.
That it just, so that's great. So you've kind of done a little bit, but, what can you remember the point where you went back to embrace Bruce? And if so, tell me about it, and tell me what about you reawoke that love that you had grown up listening to.
Yeah, no, I happy to say that. I think, probably I'd say probably college, right?
Okay.
Just getting in the car, coming home for the holidays. I was in college in like 05, 04 to 08, 09,
Okay.
that time. So it was really about like, the Rising album, right? 9/11. I remember watching the performance he did, My City of Ruins on just in pitch black with candles and Clarence and Patty in the back. Like it was beautiful. And I remember like being with my dad, and he was just so touched and so emotional from it. And I was like, he is like, you kind of forget because you're a teenager and you hate your parents and all.
Yeah,
all
no,
of this
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
But you're like, oh wow, this guy has had such an impact on my father's life. And being able to realize why in that moment, like he's here for us, he's here for himself, but he's here to heal. He's here to bring people together. And I think so 01 to like 04, 05 started really listening to it more and more, and then got into what I think is greatest album of all time, In Darkness, like that. I think just like that rebellion and angst, and like this is life's happening now, right? And I graduated in 08 when there was a recession, and jobs weren't there right away, and my life wasn't going the way I wanted it to at the time. And just listening to those drums come in at Badlands, and like listening to all of that got me through a lot of stuff. So I would say like 04 to 08, 09 was like really when I really got into it. So like my early 20s.
Kyle, one of the things that, and it wasn't, I don't know if I had a moment, road to Damascus, moment, but one of the steps where I went from a casual fan to a passionate fan, I won't say obsessive, a passionate fan, right?
Same.
Was that 9/11, benefit, right? That hear that, a prayer for our fallen brothers and sisters, and just, oh, it does. It absolutely does. So once you've embraced darkness, so talk to me about, it's 2009, 2004, 2005, you've gone in that. Where did you think, did you go back and look at a lot of the old catalog? Did you embrace new? What was your next step in your journey?
I did. So well, I really love The Rising, obviously. So that's like, I think 2001, that was sort of, Mary's Place, that fun, you're getting ready to go home for the weekend. But to me, at that point in my life, it was what spoke to me was Born to Run and Darkness. like just where my mind was, right?
Sure.
Like if I think of, Prove It All Night, right? Going at
Yeah.
like, I think he says this, and I think it's like one of the 1978. He's like, you gotta, you're in the weekend, you're proving it to your, you got to prove it to your family, you got to prove it to your wife, and you got to prove it to your boss. Like just
Yeah.
like that type of stuff, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life.
Sure.
He had it all together, but he depicted it in a way that he was still trying to figure it out. And I related to that in a way that was just, I'll find a way, right? And
Yeah.
I'll be scrappy like he was. No one worked harder than he did. So it was sort of that motivation, and just the lyrics, I can't, it's hard to describe it, but just really spoke to me. And then Born in the USA was probably what I remember the most as a kid.
Okay. Sure.
The first song I ever remember hearing was in my dad's car, and it was I'm Going Down. And as a 5-year-old kid, 5, 6 years old, you hear that, and that was like that catchy sort of number. That was the first song I do remember. So going back, listening to those, it's funny, we were talking about Tunnel of Love. I didn't get into Tunnel of Love until probably like when I met my wife, which was 2012. So I think that's when it was like, okay, this is like, it's you and me, and that we're all that other person that's in the room, right? That we're all, we're all scared of. So it was that album spoke to me, and still does, as I get older, and we've been married 6 years now. So got into that, and then again, just continued to be a fan of his music. I loved Shackled and Drawn, and that whole album. And then obviously this last album he put out, I think, is absolutely amazing. And I loved Western Stars. To go back to back like that, Western Stars to Letter to You, I think it's some of his best work. It reminds me a little bit of Darkness. I don't know if you get that a lot, but just the sound of the music,
Sure.
really, it feels like a Darkness album in a way.
In a lot of ways, it is a classic E Street Band
Yes.
album. Absolutely. So I always like to preface this, Kyle, with the amount of times you've seen Bruce live is not a fair barometer of what kind of fan you are. There's people who've never seen him that are massive fans. There are people who've been lucky enough to see 200-300 shows. So
yes.
Do you count the amount of times you've seen him?
Oh, I count, and it's not 200 to 300. I wish.
Okay. Yes. Me too.
I've seen him. I've seen him with the band. I've seen him twice. I saw him in 03 in Fenway.
Okay.
And then most recently I saw him in 2016 at Gillette.
Okay.
And that was a special show. That was it was a 4-hour set.
Okay.
I think he opened up with New York Serenade. He played a lot of the older stuff, which was just fantastic. I was with my 2 uncles and my brother and my dad. It was the 5 of us. I had just gotten married, so it was sort of like my wedding gift from my uncle. So it was super special. And then I was lucky enough to see him on Broadway with my wife.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I saw him in 2018. Patty wasn't there, but it was December of 2018. Okay. And I think for my wife, who totally supports my Bruce fandom, but is not on that level.
That was my next question. She was like, you have a mixed marriage, much like me. Yes.
For sure. And it's funny. So her dad is a diehard Van Morrison fan, like I am for Bruce.
Sure.
So I think she understands sort of the fandom that, that a great musician can bring people into. But the Broadway show, crying, My Father's House, I don't know, all of it. It was just so cool. It felt like a little bit of a religious experience. We were going through some stuff at the time, and just like, it was just amazing just to be with her there and have that experience. So it was truly special. And hopefully 2022, 2023, whatever the rumors are, I'm there.
Hope I'm right there with you. Do you swap songs with your father-in-law? Does he say, "Hey, check out this Van Morrison song," and you go, "Okay, yeah, this reminds me of a Bruce song"?
I think they're both such great storytellers.
Right.
Um, I think he likes Bruce Springsteen. I think I like Van Morrison more than he likes Bruce.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think he just loves who he loves, right?
Yeah, sure.
He loves Van so much. We're actually going to a Van Morrison show in September together.
Oh, how
Um,
cool.
yeah, so super excited about that. And
Yeah.
again, just seeing someone who is a
Yeah,
passionate fan about somebody else, it kind of validates your fandom
it does. It
in a
does.
way.
Yeah.
In a way.
You were talking about Gillette show. Share a little bit more. Is there other stories from shows that you've attended, things you want to
Yeah. So
detail?
The Gillette show, what I remember, it was super hot. And I remember, you're in the parking lot and you're like, what do you want to hear? What do you want to hear? And everyone's sort of just like picking the songs.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's obviously one of my favorite songs on the album, but I said I would love to hear Darkness on the Edge of Town.
Sure.
And he ultimately played it. And I think, just seeing kind of the connection, like I was sitting farther away from my dad and he looked at me, he's like, he's playing it. It was just like, not that he's playing it for you, but it's that special moment of hearing a song. And just the 4 hours, right? I mean, seeing these guys on stage for 4 hours. I think the show started at 7, it went to 11, and they could have gone another 2 hours, or at least they appeared like that. And just to see how entwined they were together, how in sync they were. We were on the floor, we had great seats, and just how happy people were, right? If you think about like
Yeah.
what we're going through now with the pandemic and what we've been through, and there's something about a live concert, especially a Bruce concert, that
Oh, sure.
it's a sense of community. And I think that's what people, I mean, follow you on Twitter, I follow a lot of other Bruce fans, and that's what everyone's just craving for, right? Is
Yeah.
like, we've been through hell.
We really have, haven't we?
We've been through hell, like, just with everything going on, like
Yeah.
the whole world feels like it's on fire. I feel like that for that one night, it would feel a little bit normal again. And I think that's what people are just clamoring for. And
Oh, yeah.
and I know Bruce is trying, he
Yeah.
wants to get out there, and it'll happen.
Have you been to a show since the pandemic?
Oh man. No, and it's not because I wouldn't. I think,
Yeah.
like I said, just having a 2-year-old daughter.
Sure.
But I've seen some like bar bands. Like I travel a lot for work.
Okay.
So I'll go try to check out some live music when I can. I used to go to Memphis a lot for work on Beale Street. So again, you can hear some great music down there.
Memphis is a great town. Memphis is
Yeah.
a really cool music town.
Great music scene, and still
Yeah.
does, right? It's obviously Elvis and the whole crew down there, but
Yeah.
it's still some great musicians. I don't even know, I forget, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but just some great guitar players, some great
Yeah.
voices, and can play any song. You put it in a hat and they pull it out and they pull it off like it's theirs. It's
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So let's what did your wife think of Broadway? As being a casual fan.
She loved it. I think what we went in, we made it a special night. We took the train in from Boston. We got a hotel in the city, did a nice dinner. So like we took in like the whole Broadway scene, right? And
Yeah.
I made the joke, it's like I always promised you I'd take you to Broadway show,
Yeah.
like that whole
Exactly.
thing. Here we are. And I think coming out of it, she told me she really appreciated seeing everyone's reaction, right? I mean, there were two passionate Bruce Springsteen fans from New Jersey behind us, and you could just tell this was their year, right? This was their life. They were so happy to be there. It took everything in their power not to stand up and actually act like they were at a live
exactly. Yes.
show. I think noticing that is what the audience was like struggling with. Like they wanted to clap, they wanted to cheer, but it was a very personal and intimate show that he put on. And I think his raw storytelling skill set, you don't even need to be a Bruce Springsteen fan. If you saw that show, I mean, it's on Netflix. If you
Yeah,
watch that, it is just
I
so
agree.
powerful. The way that he tells a story, the way that he opens up and is so honest about his
Yeah,
relationship with his father and his mother and his Vietnam
yeah,
reflection, right? Like
yeah.
all of it is just so personal. And I think that's what makes any successful marriage is opening up to your spouse, right? And I think like, you know, being able to open up how he opens up
Yeah.
to his audience is something that can, any relationship can learn from.
So, Kyle, one of the things you said is you feel like Bruce's music grows with you.
Yes.
And I've had other people say that. He meets you where you are, and he it is not a cliche to call him the soundtrack of our lives often.
Mhm.
So at middle 30s,
Yeah.
a toddler,
Yeah.
where what what Bruce music is speaking to you now? What is the album or songs that you are finding either direction or comfort in?
Yeah. It's I always keep going to the I'd say obviously my hometown, right? I'm
Yeah,
35, got a job, that
yeah,
whole verse. You kind of, again, that whole song is full circle.
yeah,
So that hits me. Obviously getting a little bit into you know, My Beautiful Reward, all of those songs about just like actually being happy, right? Like I
yeah,
feel like I'm actually in a really good position in life. And I think those Lucky Town and Human Touch albums really depict that, right?
yeah, they do.
He's in the 90s, he's got a family now.
Yeah,
He's
Better
got
Days, one of my
Better
favorite
Days.
songs,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
he's bringing out this new band, and he's just doing his thing because he's happy and he can.
hmm,
And he's not like he's done the grinding, and Bruce will always
yeah,
grind, but he's in a different position in life, and that's kind of where I am. But when I
yeah,
have a hard day, I always go back to, darkness on the edge of town. I'll be on that hill, right? Like
yeah,
I gotta just get up. I gotta work, factory, all of that stuff. Like it's
yeah,
all relatable, even though obviously I'm not in a factory. So,
yeah,
you can find, when I need, just to kind of shut out and just blare some music, right? I'll put Adam Raise the Cane and just like play some loud rock and kick ass Bruce.
yeah,
I've been doing that a lot lately. And then really enjoying the new album.
yeah.
If I Was a Priest, that song is amazing.
It really is. It is one of my
It is.
favorites. Yeah,
My brother, I'd say he's a moderate Springsteen fan. He didn't get the bug like I did.
yeah,
He loves the album. He was the first one to text me. He goes, "He's still got it. He's still got it."
that's
So
awesome.
like that was cool to
Yeah,
hear from him. But yeah, Nebraska, I
mhm.
saw, I don't know if you saw that, like seminar, I don't even know what it was, where they played a little bit of the Electric,
Yeah. I
Born in the
know it got
USA.
pulled down before I got to see it. Yeah,
It was cool. I fast forwarded to that part. But just Nebraska to me is the epitome of storytelling,
yeah,
right? And how he did it, how he pulled it together, and just like the longevity of that album, how it's still, whether it was meant to be political, is political.
yeah,
And Johnny 99 is one of my favorite songs. So
yeah.
all of it, man. I could go on, but I think the point of my life, it's probably still like Born in the USA. Like I'm 35, like I'm getting older, so it's like, that family side of Bruce, I would say, is where
Yeah.
I'm at.
You mentioned that you wanted to share how he helped you through the pandemic and with
Yeah,
the newborn. Tell me a little bit about that.
for sure. And so a little bit of my story here is, and I'm sure everyone that's listening to this went through the same thing. So my daughter was born on March 5th, which was a week before March 5th,
Wow.
2020.
Okay. Yes.
So a week before the world, hit
Yeah.
at the fan, right? And so that was new, right? We had, first of all, my wife wasn't working, obviously. I'm working from home. I'm on paternity leave. We can't see my parents, we can't really see her parents. And at that point in your life, when you have a newborn, you need a support system. So we were obviously, you know, my in-laws are absolutely amazing and did an amazing job of just like being there for my wife and I. And, you know, we owe so much to them, but we were really like isolated, you know.
Yeah,
like,
because
really
I mean,
isolated.
one of the things that happens is, you know, if you have a good relationship with your parents,
Yep.
you know, that, you know, your mom, you know, will come visit for a week and her mom will come stay, you know, and kind of help you guys transition.
Yeah,
And all of a
that didn't
sudden,
happen.
lockdown. Nope. Good luck,
Nope,
buddy.
not
Here's the
happening.
baby.
And it was
Go
more like
run.
totally, I totally, like, you nailed it. And like, it was the fear too, right? This was like the wash your groceries. This was like literally the fear. And first of all, everyone had a right to be fearful. And I think ours was compounded by 20 because we had a newborn who, you know, you're just trying to keep her alive, right? You're trying to like literally like keep this baby alive. And then also, you know, going back to work upstairs, right? So you're hearing the baby, you're hearing your wife, you're at work, but you can't, you know, you don't have that commute home to sort of like shut off the day, right? So I got really into cooking and just playing Bruce Springsteen, and that was sort of the therapy I needed to sort of like stop the workday stress and be a good husband and be a good father. So, you know, cooking, blasting Bruce in the kitchen, and then just going for walks and just trying to like just settle down. This is temporary. We'll figure it out. Like everything is fine. And obviously, like I think everyone went through hell just mentally, right? And the impact that we are social people and we're meant to be together, probably why people are craving these concerts so much. And when you can't do it, I think it does a number on you. And I think, you know, compounding that with being a new dad and just trying to manage that, Bruce really like got me through a lot of just like the quiet time, like when I needed to just like take a walk, or I needed to cook, or I needed to go out, I needed to go for a ride, like just really just because you couldn't go anywhere. You probably get that a lot, I would imagine. But I think just again, it gets, I kind of go around in circles, but he's the way he can pick a moment that you're going through and a lyric that can stick out that maybe you've never heard before really rings true. So he really he's always been there for me, but I feel like he definitely was there for me when real people, well, Bruce is a real person, but actual people,
I know what you mean.
He couldn't be like actual people couldn't be there for me, you know.
So long time coming, make the playlist.
Oh yes,
You know, I hope I don't F it up this time.
100%.
I can imagine.
Long time coming. All of it, I think. Just what's the song from Tunnel of Love? One step up, one step back, you know. You know, you feel like you're getting through the pandemic, and then you know another variant breaks out, or you know,
exactly.
Like, where are we going? Where are we going with this? But you know, I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say, one of the most scary moments, right, is the nurse, you know, takes your spouse out on the wheelchair, and you've pulled the car up, and you've got the brand new car seat you haven't used yet, and you know, and they're like, okay, bye, and like go, and you're like driving home, and I can only imagine because it was scary and it was that fearsome. And then when you throw in, like I had a mild version, I got laid off on January 2nd. No. I mean, there's a good story. I got laid off January 2nd of 2020. And so interviewed, found a company. They made an offer. I started February 10th.
Okay.
All right. The place was less than 4 miles from my house.
Oh, what a commute.
Like, this is great. This is so good. You know, and all of a sudden, you know, February 10th, March 12th, 15th,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, you
like,
got a month. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I have, like, as my boss says, you barely knew where the restrooms were,
Yes.
and we sent you home to work from home for 2 months, you know?
And how long were you out of work for?
Oh, well, luckily I got laid off in January. I
Yeah.
started February 10th,
Yeah.
and then I'm still with the company.
Yeah. No,
But
I'm sorry. How
yeah,
long were you at home? Have you been
we
at home, or
two
have you
months.
gone back?
We went 2 months. We went back in May. We offer roadside assistance
Okay.
for the RV industry. So our business went crazy,
Nice.
because everyone's busy. So my wife a couple of days ago said, I was talking about we're struggling finding people and all this stuff. She goes, well, you know, what was it before it was when it was normal? I go, I don't know. I
I
didn't
don't know.
work
I
here
didn't
when it
have
was
that.
normal. I mean,
No, and everyone, to your
yeah,
point, no one was taking like RV is a perfect vacation to be
yeah,
isolated in, right? Like,
yeah.
so, yeah.
And we joked, right? Like, my boss did not say, so Jesse, if we have a global pandemic and you
No.
have to work from home, what's your plan?
Oh, I
Yeah,
I remember I went in to get my stuff because we never went back.
yeah,
We I'm actually with a different company now, but we never went back. And I remember going in to get my monitor, and
yeah,
it looked like an apocalyptic movie. Like,
yeah,
people's stuff, like potato chip wrappers were still on their desk, like
yeah.
coffee, like it was like people just panicked
Well,
and
yeah,
left and
like,
never came back.
I heard plenty of stories from my friends that, you know, after 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, they go in there and, like, well, here was my snack drawer, right? And,
Mhm.
like, okay, well, I got to dump that,
Yeah, I can't have this. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember, yeah, I think I had a cold. Um,
yeah,
and I had all this like cold medicine on my desk. I was like,
yeah,
oh God, this is so crazy. It's like a
yeah,
time warp, right? A time
yeah,
machine.
absolutely.
Oh,
So let's talk about, you mentioned one of the
yeah.
things you wanted to do if we had time is talk a little bit about live versions compared to studio versions. So
Yes.
I'd love to hear what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think and again, it's such a fine line. I think what
Yeah,
Nugs does and
yeah,
Bruce's website does is they just put out such great live albums. They don't put
absolutely.
out crappy live albums, right? It's
Exactly.
all,
Yeah.
the quality is so top notch. Um I just like the sort of ad-libbing that a live version can bring, sort of the tweak in lyrics.
Okay.
My favorite live song versus the commercial versus the album is Johnny 99, the fast
Yeah.
version.
Okay.
To
Sure.
me, like, I don't, from the Born in the USA tour, some of that, just him on stage with Niels in the back and he's just going off on that song really is, to me, one of the best live versions of an acoustic song
Yeah.
that you'll ever see. He really turns it into almost kind of a different feeling.
Yeah.
And then, but in the other extreme, I really love the acoustic Born in the USA.
Right.
So, just kind of those different
See,
variations.
that was a song I
Yeah.
did not like. I did not like the acoustic version of Born in the
Okay.
USA. And
Yeah.
I'd skip that. Anytime we're on tracks,
Yep.
I just skip it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I was lucky enough to go to Broadway as well.
Yep.
And
That guitar.
so he's telling the story, and and he gets to where his dad says, that's good. That's good.
Mhm.
And then he says, I I'm glad that we didn't go, but I wonder who went in my place.
Yes.
And when he
That hit me.
starts that that blues version,
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my God. It was truly like I'd opened my ears the first
Yep.
time and I said, wow, how did I not get this?
Yeah, well, I think,
Yeah,
and I think the way, and I agree with you. I think the first time I saw it sort of like that
yeah,
was on that HBO. I think it was the 99 reunion
yeah,
where he did sort of that guitar intro.
yeah,
And yeah, it that song is, and again, this
yeah,
probably gets talked about so many times on your podcast, but it's been misconstrued by so many people for so many years. The way
absolutely.
that it sounds on Born in the USA, it is a powerful anti-war song.
Yes.
And it'll be interesting to see if that electric version that I heard gets released, because
Yeah.
it almost feels like that's what he like was thinking about going with.
Yeah.
But
So my buddy Sam and I over lunch one day had a debate that if Bruce had not released the anthem Born in the USA,
mhm,
that if he had released the blues,
mhm,
and therefore, and what if he hadn't written Dancing in the Dark, right?
yeah,
Where would his career been? And I
yeah,
said, maybe he's Neil Young,
yep,
certainly a successful career, certainly loved,
mhm,
but not a
Megas,
megastar,
yeah.
right? And nothing against Neil Young. Neil Young is
No,
amazing,
it's
right?
great.
Yeah. And it's, the same feeling was, another song that changed for me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts if you've got a couple more.
Oh yeah,
But
sure.
when I Independence Day was okay. I mean, I didn't dislike it, but it was just okay.
That
But
was on my list.
when I saw it on the River Tour,
Yeah,
when he tells the story, and
yeah,
you realize that he is now older than his father was when he wrote it, that
mhm,
he is now singing this song from the father's perspective,
mhm,
not the young man perspective,
yep,
blew me away. I mean, just
yes.
blew me away.
And I think just like where I've heard it, um, obviously he was, I think, and I could be wrong, but I feel like that song was supposed to be it was supposed to be on the Darkness album.
Yeah.
And it always felt like, if you listen to the Darkness tour, when he
Yeah.
played it, it feels a little bit and sounds a little bit different than it sounded on the River. So
Right.
I agree. I wrote that one down. Another one, Highway Patrolman, is one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
And the live version, I was listening to it today on the way to work, that he did with the Seeger sessions.
Yeah.
That live version of Highway Patrolman, a little bit more upbeat,
Yeah.
a little bit faster. I
Yeah.
think that's amazing. So like taking those songs and then
Yeah.
making them,
I would
different.
almost argue that Johnny Cash's version of Highway Patrolman may slightly be better than Bruce's. I mean,
He
that
does.
just, it sounds like a Johnny Cash song.
Yeah, no, it does.
Really does. Yeah.
And going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, the storytelling of that
Yes.
song, I think that Highway Patrolman, and Shut Out the Light.
Yeah.
I think if you want to just sit and listen to a song, that that tells a story, that can take you places. That's a movie, right?
Yeah.
They could write a movie on those
Absolutely.
songs.
And what's going to be interesting, and you shared with me your daughter's name is Jane.
Yeah.
Like, Jane's going to be 16, and Independence Day is going to have a whole nother meaning to you and your
Totally.
lovely bride, right?
Totally.
Yeah, because she won't be able to stand you, right? And
sure.
And you're like,
100%.
where's my
And-
little
and
girl?
They gotta rebel, and
they
then
do.
you're back.
It is part of the thing.
Oh, it's wild.
That's great.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely wild. Yeah, and then the other live song, I think, My Father's House. Obviously the album version is great, and the acoustic version that he's done on some albums, but obviously the story that he told on Broadway.
Yeah.
But even I think it's a 1990 acoustic show. I have it. The story he tells before then about how he's driving to his old neighborhood. I've done that,
Yeah.
I've, some stuff happened as a child, that growing up in your teens and your early 20s, and like his therapist is like, what's going on? He's like, I don't know, that's what I'm paying you for. And he's like, you're
Yeah.
trying to solve something
Yeah.
that you want to go back and fix, and you can't fix it. And
Yeah.
and you just relate to that. And then he goes into this emotional song.
Yeah.
That song probably gets me more than most.
On a funny note, my son is 32 now,
Oh, cool.
but when he was when he was 19, he had gone away to school, college, and out in East Texas, and so he'd come home for the weekend, and he'd say, "Hey, Pop, can we drive by St. Monica's?" Which was
Yeah.
his, first through eighth grade. He didn't have a lot of emotional ties to the public high school he went, but that Catholic grade school, right?
Yeah, a lot of memories.
Yeah. And so he's going through there, and I slyly, put on Glory Days. Right. And he's just like, you got it, Pop. You got it.
You
That's
got it.
it.
You
I'm
nailed it.
just doing glory days. Yes.
It's the nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
Everyone needs it.
Yeah.
And I think as we get older and, being in your 30s, that's when it really starts to sort of change, right? And
Yeah.
your brain changes, right? Your memories
Yeah.
change. Things seem farther away than
Yeah.
they really are. But that's funny. That's that's a good one.
How are you teaching Jane to love the boss?
I haven't brought it in. You know what I'll do is, so I drive her to daycare every morning.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're on a good path for that
Yeah.
because so far she likes the classics.
Yeah.
I think my in-laws got this for her, but it was Little Help from My Friend's book.
Yeah.
So she knows the book. It's
Okay.
written by Paul McCartney and John
Oh,
Lennon.
how fun.
Through it. But she loves the Joe Cocker version. So we listened to that
Okay.
in the car.
Oh, nice.
We listened to Cat Stevens' Peace Train. She loves that song.
Oh, nice.
So she likes these old songs.
You're
So
doing good. You're doing good, Dad.
I haven't got into I played Bruce and she'll just immediately say, Peace Train or, so she shuts it right down, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. Very good. All right. Are there songs, and certainly we could just say Western Stars, Letter to You, all of them to hear live, but are there other songs that when we get a tour, you're going to be chasing that you want to hear live?
Yeah, there's one in particular.
Okay.
And I think it's one of his best songs, underrated. I don't know, you probably heard this, but Streets of Fire.
Okay.
I think, lyrically, is it like, are there so many, in these in-depth lyrics? No, but to me, that song is not about lyrics. It's about the passion that he's delivering that song with. So I think seeing that live, I've heard some great live versions. But yeah, Streets of Fire would be really cool. Obviously, like you said, the new stuff. And then I think I would love to hear The Promise. I haven't heard that.
Okay.
So I'd say Streets of Fire and The Promise would be my two.
Okay. Very nice. Cool.
Yes.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have, Kyle?
No, I mean, this is fun. I think I could do this all night. I think one thing we were talking about is, just all the, the controversy about the sways and the, and what it is. And I don't know if, I think you asked me, does she get out of the car? Right.
That's how I end. That's how I end every show. So, yep. So hang on. Not here yet.
Sorry. I'm jumping the gun.
That's okay. That's okay. No, we're good. So, that is awesome. All right. Final thoughts before I get to the Barry question.
Please. Yeah.
Any final thoughts from you before I get to the Barry question?
Thank you to you. And I think, to be able to bring Bruce fans together, right? We've never met. I feel like, I could talk to you.
We make a friendship.
And we could just, we could talk Bruce and, maybe we'll see each other down the road. So
yeah, again, absolutely.
Doing what you're doing is important. Believe me. I think as we all get older, as the band gets older, and again, I think it's important just to keep what he does so great. And he still sounds great. He still looks great. He's still doing his thing. The band's doing their thing, but I think it's important to remember how great he is. And I think, you do a great job of that, and how great his fans are and how passionate they are and all of that. So I really appreciate it.
That's very nice of you to say, Kyle. I appreciate it so much. It was a lot of fun. I will definitely have you on again as you continue your fatherhood journey. I want to hear the latest stories. Yeah. So if you are a coworker of Kyle's or a family member, maybe his father-in-law, check it out, hey, Pops, you could always come talk to me about Van Morrison. I'd love an episode about him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He would come on in a second to talk Van.
All right, that's great. All right, I'll have you connect us. I end every episode with the Mary question. Jay Armstrong, who is an honors English teacher, recently retired, would do this when he taught his honors English class. They would take 2 days and they would break apart Thunder Road. They would look at all the lyrics.
I
They
love
would
that.
talk about the imagery Bruce uses. They would talk about it, comparing it to Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, and would visit the thought, does Mary get in the car? So
Yeah.
Kyle, I know you're ready. You were ready.
I was ready.
Does Mary get in the car?
At that point, yes, she does. She does.
Okay.
She gets in. Now, whether she stays in the car, that's a whole different
Story. But
Yeah.
I think that's what his other songs, have tried to continue to do, expand upon Thunder Road.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she gets in.
Okay. Very nice.
She
Very
wants
good.
she wants to, branch out too for a little bit.
She wants to go out there and let's go. All right. Kyle, are you on any social media at all?
I am. I am on Instagram. You can find me at G Diggity Dog, and I am on Twitter. And my Twitter handle is also G Diggity Dog 8989.
All right.
And then you can find me on LinkedIn, just Kyle Gordon.
Very nice.
Yeah, look me up.
Yeah, that sounds great. Kyle, this was so much fun. I appreciate it. I agree with you. I feel like, I've made a new friend, and that always makes me happy. And so keep doing what you're doing as a father and a husband. It's just so important. It is, it's a scary time for all of us out there, and being there for your family is just so important. So good for you. You should be proud of yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. It means a lot. And again, I know there's a bunch of other moms and dads, listening, thinking the same thing. So
Yeah.
let's keep doing it together, and we'll be all right. We'll be on tour next year.
That's so much. All right, listeners, you go get vaccinated, go get boosted. Let's all be kind to each other, because that's how we're going to get through this. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, listeners. We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Have a good night.
Bruce Springsteen Live provides fans with an intimate look into Springsteen's creative process. The Bruce Springsteen Live exhibit opens at the Woody Guthrie Center on Saturday, April 16th, running through Sunday, September 25th. The exhibit will feature iconic artifacts, live performance footage, instruments, stage costumes, exclusive interviews, concert posters, and photography, as well as unique interactive displays to immerse fans in Bruce Springsteen and the band's creative process. More information can be found at woodyguthrieCenter.org. Please let them know that Set Listing Bruce sent you there, and I'll see you in Tulsa. Doing a podcast at times can be a one-way conversation, and I hate that. So please let me know what you like and don't like about the work I'm doing. You can reach the podcast via email at setlistingbruce@gmail.com. The show is on Twitter at setlistingbruce, and my personal Twitter is at jessejacksondfw. We have a website, www.setlistingbruce.com. From there, you can find links to other Springsteen podcasts, as well as other music-themed podcasts. We have a page devoted to our own SLB All-Star Band. These are guests who have been on the podcast more than 3 times. There is a link to our store where you can purchase Set Listing Bruce shirts, as well as a Mary Question t-shirt. There is a link to our Patreon page where you can sign up to help support the podcast financially. We have different levels and different rewards based on your support. If you don't have any extra cash, and right now, who does? You can support the podcast by subscribing via your favorite podcast player and leaving us a review. The more reviews we have, the easier it is for people to find us. And please tell a friend about the podcast, especially if they love Bruce or music, because it will make a difference.
You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.